This is an English lesson about acronyms. I'm Bob the Canadian. If you don't know what acronyms are when we take the letters from words and we say kind of a short form of the word. So this lesson today is going to be about acronyms. And I have on here the FBI, which stands for the Federal Bureau of Investigation. I'm sure you have seen the FBI on television or in the movies. Today's lesson on acronyms, that is short forms made up of the first letters of words, is going to be about acronyms that we use in everyday life. I'm not going to be talking about acronyms on the internet, but I will do a lesson on that next week. But I was surprised myself when I started doing research for this lesson how many acronyms we use in everyday English. So I'm not going to be talking about words or acronyms like LOL. I'll do that next week. But I am going to be talking about acronyms like ETA. So the other day I was on a field trip, and when we were on our way back, I sent a message to the principal of my school, my boss, and I said, we're on our way back, ETA 30 minutes. When you use the acronym ETA, you're talking about your estimated time of arrival. So if you say to someone that you are going to their house and you say ETA 10 minutes, it means that you will be there in 10 minutes. Now, we don't use this a lot in English, but we do say it sometimes, like what's your ETA? Which would basically mean what is your estimated time of arrival? When do you think you're going to arrive? So ETA is our first one. You will hear this as well sometimes when you are traveling using airplanes or on a train, where they'll say, well, our ETA to arrive in Paris is 20 minutes. So ETA is our first one. I hope you can see this, right? Estimated time of arrival. So again, we are here. Welcome to the 244 people that just jumped in. We are doing a lesson on acronyms. So acronyms are when you take the first letters of words and you kind of create a new word, which we call an acronym. And there are a couple of ways to say it. Some people will say that these are actually not acronyms, that they are, oh, there's another word for it, and I can't think of it right now. But loosely speaking, these are acronyms. Anyways, let me introduce myself. I'm Bob the Canadian. Many of you are aware of that, and but some of you might be new here. Thank you for joining this lesson. If you're new here, don't forget to click the subscribe button and give me a thumbs up. You can ask questions in the chat. Both Dave and Todd will from time to time post the link in the chat. And please don't ask questions in the chat. So when you see the link, like Todd just posted there, that's great. You can use that link to ask one question, but please use the chat to speak English and to speak to each other about the lesson. So once again, we're talking about acronyms, and we looked at the first one, which was ETA, or estimated time of arrival. And we do say this. We do say things like, hey, what's your ETA? Okay, about 5 minutes. I'll be there in about 5 minutes. The next one is actually not English, but we use it. And it's the acronym RSVP. So sometimes you'll get a wedding invitation. And in the wedding invitation, it will say, can you please RSVP by a certain date? So even though this stands for répondez s'il vous plaît, okay, which is French for please respond. So if you get an invitation and it says please RSVP, what the people are asking for is that you tell them whether you are planning to come or not. So when I get an invitation to a wedding and it says please RSVP by this date, they want to know if I'm coming, and they want to know if I'm bringing Jen with me. So they will ask for an RSVP. That's why you see here there's an invitation and it says RSVP yes or no. Basically, when you RSVP someone, you are letting them know if you are planning to come to a wedding or other event. So RSVP, merci beaucoup. Thank you to the French people for giving us this one. Répondez s'il vous plaît, which in English, this would mean please respond. By the way, this is French. For those of you that don't recognize it, I know all of my viewers from France and Vietnam and various other countries that have French as a language or a recent language would know that. So RSVP is our second one. Our third one is FYI, which is for your information. So you will hear this sometimes when people are giving you information or talking to you. They'll say things like, oh, if you're going to Toronto, FYI, the train isn't running today. So we say FYI to say we're going to communicate some information to you, and it stands for your information. So FYI, there will be a live stream tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that would have been a totally normal sentence in English for me to say, oh, FYI, there is a live lesson tomorrow morning on my channel. So FYI for your information. Let's do one more, and then I will look at some questions. I'm just looking at myself on my computer. I look better than last week. Last week I was glowing like I was an angel or something. So our next one is DIY, which is do it yourself. So a lot of times in English, people will say they have a DIY project on the go, okay? Or they're building something and it's kind of a DIY, which means that it is do it yourself. So a lot of times people will build things and they'll describe it as, oh, I'm building a shed in my backyard. It's kind of a DIY project, which is a do-it-yourself project. In fact, if you search on YouTube for DIY and then the name of something, you will find videos showing you how to do it yourself. So if you wanted to make a shirt, you could say, you know, DIY knitting or DIY sewing, and you would probably find information on how to do it yourself. So DIY, do it yourself. Just a really quick review. ETA, estimated time of arrival. FYI, for your information. RSVP, répondez s'il vous plaît, or please respond. And DIY, which is do it yourself. And then this, I'll do one more and then I'll look at some questions. ATM stands for automatic teller machine. I think you've seen this one before because I've done a lesson before on money, and I think you've seen this one before, but ATM is automatic teller machine. Let me jump over and see if there are some questions. Oh, there's a lot of questions. First question, DEEK says, thanks DEEK. DEEK is an acronym, also called a short form. It can be, yes, definitely. In fact, when I was leaving this morning, I was thinking acronym might be too confusing of a name for this lesson. I might put brackets around the title and say short forms. Let's see here. Let's see, this is a good one. Shen says, Bob, AKA the best teacher in Canada. So AKA is a way to say another name for. Is it possible that people who always use acronym to compare their meaning are lazy guys? In my humble opinion, IMHO, using acronym is very convenient. What do you think? I think it's quite useful, especially on the internet. In fact, next week, I will do a lesson on internet acronyms. Again, this lesson is going to be about acronyms that we use in everyday life. Lee says acronym for etc. So ETC would be an acronym that means etc., which means and more and more. That's a good one. Ahmad says, what are your most used acronyms? I think the ones that I'm going over today are all very, very common. I don't know if any are more used than others. But also, thanks Todd, AKA stands for also known as. I think these are probably the 30 most common that I'm going to talk about. Renata says, is the acronym TATA for now? Very common, not super common, but I'll research that one up and we'll see. Next question, and then we'll get back to the lesson. Suzanta Podar says, do people use acronyms in daily conversation? Yes, all of the acronyms I'm talking about today are used regularly, okay? So definitely we say things like, is there an ATM here? Did you RSVP to that wedding? And I can't remember the other ones that I did. Or FYI, there's a live stream tomorrow. Okay, TBA is the next one on my list, and this is to be announced. You will also often hear if someone is planning an event and they don't know what day it will be on, they'll say, date TBA, okay, to be announced. So you'll see this sometimes when people say, we're planning on having a party in the summer. We're not sure what date yet. The date will be TBA, so it will be announced later. So TBA means to be announced. This is kind of a sad one, and some of you probably have seen this one before. This is RIP, or rest in peace. Sometimes people just say RIP, but usually it's rest in peace or RIP. So you will see this after someone has passed away. A lot of times you will see this in writing. In order to remember that person well, we will say RIP. This next one you will see, I'm going a little quick today because I have to get through 30 of these and answer questions. PS stands for post-scriptum, but we don't actually use the Latin. This is not English, this is Latin. And we use PS at the end of a letter or email when there's something we forgot to mention in the main part of the letter. So sometimes we'll add something after we have closed the letter. So we'll say, PS, don't forget it's Joe's birthday on Friday. So if I was writing a letter to my mom, and then at the end I say, goodbye, have a good day, from Bob the Canadian to Mom the Canadian, I could say, oh, PS, don't forget it's Joe's birthday on Friday. So it's a little thing added at the end of a letter. Sometimes maybe something we forgot to put in the letter. It's definitely from the time before computers, okay? Because with computers, you can simply go back and add it. But PS is something you add at the end. I think this next one, some of you will recognize. Let me see, I'll slowly put it up here. Here we go. Slowly, there it is. So ESL is what we use when we talk about English as a second language. So many students come to Canada to take ESL classes, okay? So you already speak your native language and you are learning a second language, and that language is English. So you will come and you will take ESL classes. A lot of times recent immigrants to Canada will take ESL classes at night in order to practice and perfect their English. So ESL stands for English as a second language. We also sometimes say ELL, which is English language learning, because to say English as a second language, it might not be your second language. It might be your third or fourth language, but we still do use this term to talk about classes where you learn English. In our school, we have an ESL department, and we have teachers who teach English as a second language. Again, for those of you that are just arriving, we are doing a lesson today on acronyms. We use acronyms in everyday English speech quite a lot. For sure, it is not something that English learners recognize right away. It can be quite a challenge. Kwok has the next question. What is the meaning of FBI? FBI is the Federal Bureau of Investigation in the United States. Docker has the next question. What does XOXO stand for? It stands for hugs and kisses. So at the end of a letter, if you put XOXO, it means hugs and kisses. Grandmas usually do that in their letters. They say things like, you're such a great grandkid, I hope you have a good day, and then hugs and kisses, they put X's and O's. Henry from Taiwan. Hi, Teacher Bob. Hi, Henry. I recall one of the short English lessons is about IMHO. In my humble opinion, I learned that new. Thank you. Yes, I did do a lesson on that. So Tan Pham says, how can we easily identify acronyms in listening conversation? You just need to know them, okay? You just need to watch a lesson like this where I go over what I think are the 30 most common acronyms in English. I think that will help you quite a bit. Let me get one more question. Beto has, hello Bob, I would like to ask how to pronounce ASAP. We actually say ASAP. I need this done ASAP. And ASAP stands for as soon as possible. And I don't actually have it in my lesson today. So thank you, Beto, for putting that there. But we do say ASAP. So if I bring my car to the garage and I need it fixed quickly, I would say, I need this back ASAP. I need my car fixed ASAP. And it means as soon as possible. Let me do one more question. Let's see. Madi says, this isn't about acronyms, but it's a good thing. Hi, Bob the Canadian. I hope you are very well. I want to mention for you are using Cambly for speaking English, and I recommend everyone learning English to watch your video. Thank you very much. Cambly is great for learning English. And then Santi says, hi Bob, hello from Madrid, Spain. Thank you very much. So let's get back to the lesson. This one is an easy one, but sometimes when you go somewhere, people will ask for your ID, okay? In Canada, if you go to a bar and you want to buy an alcoholic beverage and you're really young and they don't think you are old enough, they will ask for your ID. Sometimes when you go through customs or when you cross the border, the people at the border or at customs will ask you for your ID. So ID stands for identification, and it could be a driver's license, it could be a passport, it could be any one of the cards that has your photo and your name and everything else on it. So ID is a very common thing. If the police pull you over, the first thing they will ask for is they will ask for your ID. They'll say, can you show me some ID? And what they mean is they would like to see your driver's license or other cards that you carry that are identification. So ID is the next one. I'm not sure if you know who Albert Einstein is, but he was a really, really smart person. So we have another acronym IQ, which stands for intelligence quotient. And that basically is a number that says how smart you are. So the higher your IQ, the smarter you are. You take an IQ test sometimes in life. Every once in a while you take an IQ test. And it measures how smart you are and you get a score. I don't remember what my score is. My score on my IQ test said, okay. I don't have a high IQ. I don't have a low IQ. But your IQ is the score that you get on a test that says how smart you are. Let's see here. I was going to check something. Just give me a second here. Okay, everything's working good. The next one is I got as old a picture as possible, but PC stands for personal computer. So oftentimes people will buy a PC to use at home. Right now though, sometimes people buy a Mac. So a Mac is a computer made by Apple, but people will say, are you a Mac person or a PC person? So a PC is a personal computer. It has another meaning recently though. It can also mean politically correct. That's kind of a recent use of the word PC. So for instance, if you are someone who says something racist against someone whose skin is a different color than you, we consider that not very PC. It's not politically correct. It's not a good thing to do anymore. But originally and still now, PC stands for personal computer. I actually had a computer like this once. It was a cool computer. The screen didn't have any color though. It was just green, I think. Here's another very recent acronym, GMO, and in particular, we use the term non-GMO. Let me see if I can get this close to the screen. So more and more around the world, people want to buy food that is non-GMO. So GMO stands for genetically modified organism. So many of our plants that we grow on our farms are now genetically modified, maybe so that you can use certain kinds of spray on the crops, maybe so that it can fight certain diseases, but we have genetically modified organisms. So some of our crops have been genetically modified, but some people don't like that. They don't want to eat food that is GMO. So we currently are starting to see labels like this where it says non-GMO. Let's see here, non-GMO. So there's a question in the chat, LOL, FYI, are they used in written only? No, we say FYI out loud. Like I just used it earlier. Anyways, non-GMO is a pretty popular one. I saw this one go past in the chat earlier. People were sharing different acronyms that they know. So SOS is something that you do if you are lost. So if you were lost on a desert island, you might put the words, I might sneeze for a sec, just a sec. I'm gonna go over here. Excuse me. Whew, that was a good one. So it means save our souls or save our ship. It has a couple of different meanings, but basically if you are lost somewhere in the wilderness or on an island, you would want to create these letters in the sand on the beach or using wood or sticks if you were out in the wilderness. So if you are lost and you need rescue, I just saw myself sneeze on the screen. There's a bit of a delay. You would try to get this message out if an airplane was to fly by. I have a few here that are military terms, but we do sometimes use them. The first is AWOL, which means absent without leave or away without leave. Every once in a while, this is normally used in the Army or in the military. It's a military term. So if a soldier is gone and they did not have permission to leave, sometimes we will say that they are AWOL. But we actually use this to talk about students too sometimes. In our school, sometimes a student will be gone and we'll be just like, are they here today? Their parents said they came to school, but they're not here, they're AWOL. So they're absent without leave or away without leave. Another military term would be MIA, which stands for missing in action. This is a special airplane formation that they fly to signify that sometimes when we have war, people are missing in action. We don't know if they're alive. We don't know if they've been killed. They went to a battle and they're missing. So they weren't able to find them either alive or dead. So we would say that they're missing in action. This is a very sad thing to have when someone is MIA during a war, because then the family doesn't know if they're alive or if they have been killed. So MIA is another military term. And then we also have the term POW. So a POW is a prisoner of war, and we do use the term POW. We just say, oh, he was a POW for a year. The enemy captured him, and he was a POW, or prisoner of war. Let me jump over and do some questions. Let me clean up the questions that are here, and I will answer a few. The next question is from Isabel Lopez. Hello, Teacher Bob. Hello, Isabel. Greetings from Madeira, Portugal. I have one question. What does it mean? What does ASAP mean? So I've corrected the question there a bit. Have a nice weekend. So ASAP means as soon as possible. Okay. Aquamarine Stone. Could we use English only in the chat, please? And then Dave or Todd, could you just quick see what that says and take care of it? Thank you very much. We like English only in the chat. It just works better that way. Let's see here. ASAP, yes, so ASAP means as soon as possible, and we do use it. Like if a student says, I don't have my assignment done, can I hand it in later today? I could say to them, look, you need to hand that in ASAP because you haven't handed anything in for 3 days, okay? So I need that assignment ASAP. That's my stern teacher voice. Did you hear that? Ramon has a question, and it's not exactly about acronyms, but it kind of is. It's about hockey. Ramon from China. Hi, Bob. What's your favorite hockey team? The Toronto Maple Leafs and the Montreal Canadiens. But I'm not really a big hockey fan. Today I watched a hockey match accidentally, TBL versus VGK. OMG, it's quite attractive. So you enjoyed it. The reason I thought this was a good question is in Canada and the United States, the hockey league is called the NHL, which is the National Hockey League. So that is an acronym as well. In fact, a lot of sports teams and sports leagues have acronyms. Arvin says, I know the word app is a short form of application. Is the app an acronym? Not technically, it would be a short form. Acronyms usually use the first letters of several words. So I would say it is a short form. Next question here. Yoshi from Japan. What's the difference between abbreviations and acronyms? So abbreviations are simply shortening the word, whereas an acronym takes the first letter from each word and then puts it, so let me find one here from my pile. So we have DIY, do it yourself. So we take the D, the I, and the Y, and we create DIY. So abbreviations are more things like the question that Yoshi just asked, or sorry, not Yoshi, Arvin. We take application and we make it into the word app. That would be an abbreviation. Next question, Ahmed says, I think the acronyms are used only for writing. No, they are used in speech. Like we actually say things like DIY, okay? Oh, it's a little DIY project that I'm doing. Or if you were watching the news, you might hear them say, yeah, they wrote SOS in the sand on the beach and they were saved. If you are watching the news, you might hear them say, you know, there's a soldier from the army who is currently AWOL. We say them out loud. We definitely say them. Let's see here. Let's see. Okay, I'll put this one in, but it's Fabricio says BID is an acronym for Bob is Delicious. Thank you for the compliment. I'm blushing a little bit there, but thanks, Fabricio. Let's see here. Mansoor says, what does AM stand for? So we have AM and PM, and Todd's going to look those up for me because I don't actually know what they stand for. But right now it is almost 8 a.m. So basically that means it's almost 8 in the morning. Last night I went to bed at 10 p.m., which means I went to bed at 10 o'clock at night. So if Todd, or I'm not sure, maybe just we have Dave still, you could look up AM and PM, post that in the chat. I should have looked those up. I didn't really think of it. Let's see here. Dimitri, could you explain how to understand which acronym should be pronounced as a whole word instead of reading it letter by letter? That's a tricky one. Most of the ones I have here today are, I guess AWOL is a word, right? And DIY. I think you just have to learn that. I think you just have to kind of study it and memorize it. I should have split them into 2 categories, but I didn't. I will do that next time for sure. But yes, some of them we say it as a word, like AWOL, whereas some of them we say each individual letter, like DIY. You might need to watch this again and kind of make some notes on that just to kind of get a sense of it. Let's see here. Alina says, why are some acronyms sound like a word, like NATO or GIF or GIF? 2 pronunciations there. And some, like a few letters like USA, USB, I don't know. That's just how we do it. I think because we're lazy, and if it sounds like a word, we'll do it. Dave has checked for us. AM stands for ante-meridiem, which is Latin for before midday, and PM stands for post-meridiem, which is Latin for after midday. Thanks, Dave, very much for that information. Okay, let's keep going. I have to talk about these next 2 together. We have IE, which is from the Latin id est. I don't speak Latin, so if I said that wrong. But IE means that is. So here's a sentence here. I like superheroes, i.e. people who save the world, okay? I like superheroes, that is people who save the world. So this is defining superheroes. But if I use EG, EG means exempli gratia, for example, I would say, I like superheroes, e.g. Batman or Superman, okay? I like superheroes, for example, Batman or Superman. So the IE is when you define something, and EG is when you give examples of it. If you didn't understand that, I would recommend you look up the difference between IE and EG. DOB. Date of birth. Many times when you are filling out a form, we don't actually say this one out loud very often, but you will see it on a form, okay? So you can see here on this form, DOB, which stands for date of birth. So this is an acronym that you will see more in writing. We don't often say this one out loud, but you will see it, especially if you are filling out a form to immigrate to Canada or any kind of official government form. You will see DOB listed, and it stands for your date of birth. Hey, I just want to pause and say hi to the 509 people watching. This is a lesson on acronyms. We are about 2/3 of the way through. If you have any questions, please ask them using the link that is put into the chat from time to time. I'm Bob the Canadian. If you're new here, please hit that subscribe button. And I do want to thank all the people who are members of my channel. Thank you very much. That is very much appreciated. There is no pressure to become a member, but if you do, I do appreciate it. So thank you very, very much. Here's our next one. It's kind of a funny one, but sometimes people have parties and the party will be BYOB, okay? So you will hear someone say, I'm having a party on Saturday night, it's BYOB. What that means is that the host of the party is not providing the drinks. You need to bring your own beer or bring your own bottle or bring your own booze, okay? This is a common term with younger people in English, but they will say things like, hey, I'm having a few people over Saturday night. We're going to have a small campfire in the backyard. Come on over, it's BYOB, which basically means if you are coming and you are going to want to drink a beer, you need to bring your own beer, okay? It means the host of the party is not going to give you anything to drink. So BYOB, and it's a very common term, by the way. Next one is JPEG or JPG. I generally call them JPEGs, and this is a file format for pictures. So cameras, when they take pictures, there are several different file formats. One of them is JPEG, which is the Joint Professional, I actually don't know, Joint Photographic something group decided on a format for pictures. So when you take pictures with a camera, most people have it set to take pictures so they will be JPEGs, okay? My camera, I shoot in JPEG. I shoot JPEG pictures. Here's another one that is very American. So NASA is the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. When the United States sends up a rocket, or when they used to send up space shuttles, it was from NASA, okay? So NASA is the government organization or part of the government that explores space. So NASA, National Aeronautics and Space Administration. I saw someone mention just in the chat, let me scroll back. Counter Tenor says RSVP isn't English, it's French. That's correct. Répondez s'il vous plaît, which is what RSVP means, is French. But as English speakers, we use RSVP in our invitations all the time. Canine is kind of an acronym, but it's actually made more from the sounds of the word. So a canine is any kind of dog. So any kind of dog can be called a canine. But when you put the letter K with the number 9, it sounds like canine. So oftentimes the police will have a canine unit. So if they are looking for someone who committed a crime, sometimes they will call in the canine unit. The canine unit, you can even see it here in the car, it says canine. That is a police officer that comes with a police dog. So this is a police officer with a police dog, and they are part of the canine unit. They will use the dog to either find people or to even help arrest people. But when the police come with a dog, it's usually called the canine unit. And this is the letter and the number that we use to talk about the canine unit. When you go to the bank, sometimes you use an ATM, and when you use an ATM, you have to put in your PIN. So PIN is your personal identification number. So you know how you go boop, 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 boop. That's the sound it makes. You want me to do that again? Boop, 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 boop. So you punch in your PIN number, or you put in your PIN number. So you definitely, when you go to the bank, you have a PIN. Many times on websites, you will have a password, but some websites will ask you to also put a PIN number in, okay? So we do say PIN, okay? So if you go to the bank and you say, my card isn't working, they'll say, did you punch your PIN number in wrong? And you'll say, no, I punched my PIN number in right. And definitely, this is something used in everyday speech, that you need to have a PIN number. Let's see here. Let me check if there are questions. There are some questions. Next one is Tang. Hi, Bob. I'm from Vietnam. SCP, what does it mean? I don't know what SCP means. I'm going to look it up, and we'll see if it's something common. I don't think it is. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that one. Sorry, Tang. Let's see here. Next one. Q Mike says, we regularly read in the newspapers the acronym BTW, which means by the way. Can you give the meaning? Thank you so much. So by the way is simply a phrase we use, and the acronym is BTW. It's a phrase we use just to add some information. So if someone said to me, I'm going to go to town and buy a coffee, I could say, oh, you might want to take this road, by the way, because the other road is closed. Or, by the way, just so you know, by the way, FYI, the drive-through is closed. So, by the way is just a little nice phrase we use to add more information to a situation. Let's see here. I'm not sure what this next question means. By the way, folks, I'm almost out of questions. So if you have a question, now is a great time to ask using the forum because I'm all caught up. I said I wasn't going to do internet acronyms. I'm going to do a lesson on that next week. But this is definitely an internet acronym. It's one of the first ones, and it's FAQ or FAQ. So we say both. Like, did you read the FAQ or did you read the FAQ? And it stands for frequently asked questions. So usually this is on a web page. A web page will have a home page. They will have a FAQ or a FAQ, and they will have an about us. But this is usually just a collection of questions that people ask regularly, okay? So Lolly, I didn't answer your question. I didn't see your question. I will look for it in a moment. FAQ, though, is frequently asked questions. So the questions that are most often asked are called frequently asked questions. Lolly, I don't actually see your question in the question form. Sorry, if you put it there, just put it in the chat, Lolly. I'll answer it straight from the chat. I'll break the rules right now. Let's see here. Eugene from Etobicoke says ETA meaning. So ETA is estimated time of arrival. Estimated time of arrival. And basically it is a guess at the time that someone will arrive, or a train or a plane. So if a plane is flying here from France, we would say that the ETA is about 3 hours. It's halfway here. The ETA is about 3 hours from now. Let's see here. Your fan has the next question. How big is the difference between your daily speech and speech that you use during your lessons? Could you please answer with your daily speed and pronunciation? Absolutely. So my daily speed is about this fast. If you were to ask that question, I can read it again for you. How big is the difference between your daily speech and speech that you use during our lessons? Could you please answer with your daily speed and pronunciation? So my normal speed is about this fast. I don't pause very often between sentences. I talk really quickly. When I'm talking in my videos, though, I try to slow down as much as possible. I do speak very clearly, though, because I've been teaching for over 20 years. This is my classroom. So I think because I've been teaching for 20 years, I already enunciate and speak a lot more clearly than most people would. And that probably helps a little bit too. It's very subconscious. I don't think about it. But when I'm speaking, I'm usually speaking as clearly as I can because I'm almost always explaining something to someone. So there you go. That was my normal speed. How fast am I speaking now? Probably about 10% slower. And I try not to use contractions and reductions, although they do slip in because it's hard to avoid doing that for sure. Let's see here. Next question is from Pavel. What forms of country names in spoken language are more common, shortened variants or abbreviations? For example, USA versus States versus United States, or GB versus Britain. So in Canada, we often refer to the USA as the US, or as the States, okay? The most informal way that we talk about the United States is to say the States. There are other short forms. We don't use GB for Britain. When we talk about Britain, we just say the UK. We get it all mixed up. So, sorry, I'm talking my normal speed. Did you see that? We know that there's England, and then there's the UK and all that. We just usually just say the UK. When we're talking about that whole part of the world. And it annoys some of our cousins over there, but that's how we say it. But I don't know. There are, like, Canada has no short form. I know the United Arab Emirates has a short form, UAE. But let's finish up this lesson so that we can all start our weekend. or start our workday, one of the two. All cars now have anti-lock braking systems, or ABS. So ABS stands for anti-lock braking system. This basically means that the car is able to stop a lot more quickly. Years ago, cars didn't have ABS. They just had normal brakes. And especially when you were driving on ice or snow, it could be a challenge to stop quickly. But with ABS brakes, that's kind of redundant, eh? With ABS, it's actually easier to stop. In Canada, we love cars that have ABS or anti-lock braking systems because we are often driving on snow or ice and it makes the car stop faster. There is a new kind of vehicle that's been around for about 25, 30 years, new-ish, I guess, and that's called an SUV. So I actually used to have an SUV, which is a sport utility vehicle. An SUV is usually this shape and is usually four-wheel drive. An SUV, we definitely call them SUVs. Oh, did you buy an SUV? And we have a new type of vehicle called a crossover, which kind of looks like a car and an SUV mixed together. So SUV. And then we have, I'm often saying this, and I will say it again, Eastern Standard Time. So we don't say EST very often. We usually say the whole thing, but in writing we will say EST. And I often do this in chat, where I will say tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then I'll type EST. There will be another live lesson. FYI, there is another live stream tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I'm here, okay? This is the time zone I am in. I am in the Eastern Standard Time zone right here, if you want to know where I live. So I can't believe I just showed everyone on the internet where I live. Don't come to my house. Anyways, EST stands for Eastern Standard Time. So let's see, Ruby. Hi, Bob. I asked twice, but no response. I'm wondering if you're using the right form, Ruby, because I don't see your question in the form. If you're using a link from another week, I won't see it. And you can't ask a question twice. So, and it's possible your question wasn't about acronyms. That's possible as well. Hey, we're actually done early today. If there are any last questions, please use the link in the chat. Maybe Dave could pop that link in one more time. I'm just going to talk a little bit about a couple things. One, if you did not watch last Tuesday's video, it's all about Canada. I'm going to find a link for you to that. I had a lot of fun making a video where I talked about the country of Canada. Let me just look it up. If you haven't watched it, here is the link coming right now. Link, it's in the chat. My last video about Canada. Did you know that we, in some parts of Canada, have milk that comes in bags? It's kind of weird, eh? Also, second thing, live stream tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can see in the chat, I just used two acronyms. But yes, there will be a live stream tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please join. You can ask any questions you want about the English language. Let me see here. I think I have one more question from Ken. Hello, Mr. Bob. Kilogram is written to be kg. On the other hand, pound is written to be pounds. We just actually say pound. What does it stand for? No, I don't know what LB stands for, but we just say pounds. So I could say he weighs 185 pounds. That's how we would write it, and we would say pounds. But with kilograms, sometimes we say kg. So Gaga, I will definitely check your subtitles. Oh, last thing before I go, this lesson is available tomorrow with English subtitles. You should watch it if there were parts that you didn't understand. There were a few questions about how we use these, whether we say things like NASA or whether we say FYI. So please watch it again and make some notes. And last thing, this will be available as a podcast in about 3 or 4 hours towards the end of the day today. I'm Bob the Canadian. Thanks for watching. Thumbs up. Click that subscribe button. Join my channel if you would like to support me. I always appreciate that. And I was going to say one more thing. I can't remember what it is, so it probably doesn't matter. Thank you so much for being here. I should just check, and there are no more questions. I'm going to push the button to end this. Bye. See you tomorrow if you are at the live stream.